What's up, guys? Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast. My name is Caleb Davis, and today we have our second matchup of the playoff preview series. Today we're going to be talking about the Denver Nuggets versus the Los Angeles Clippers and a 4-5 matchup. Very excited to see. And in this series, like I mentioned in the past video, I'm going to be covering key matchups, X factors, things to look out for, and my overall predictions for the series, kind of how it's going to play off, and just things to look out for. So before we dive in, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, follow me on X at CalebCD and TikTok at Peer Review Podcast to stay up to date with everything related to the channel. Now, getting started with this Nuggets versus Clippers series. During the regular season, they were 2-2 in their head-to-head matchups, but in my opinion, this doesn't really say much because Kawhi played in none of the games, and I feel like that's just a huge swing factor as to like how they match up. Offensive production for both teams, defensive matchup, just down the line, like it doesn't really matter how it went in the regular season because Kawhi wasn't there and he just changes everything. Also, Jokic missed the game. You had a bunch of guys just in and out of the lineup, so the regular season didn't really tell us much, in my opinion. But starting off, as far as like the marquee matchups, one big matchup that I'm gonna be looking out for is that Jokic versus Zubac matchup. Zubac has kind of emerged as a top 5 to 8 center in the league, wherever you want to put him this season. Like he's made vast improvements on both sides of the ball as a finisher, as a scorer, as a defender, like you name it. He's in the defensive player of the year conversation. And Jokic is just having career highs across the board, carrying the Nuggets team during the season. So two premier big men in the league. So I'm excited to look out for that. As for Jokic, I'm going to start with him. He's averaging 29.6 points per game, and which is a career high. That 12.7 rebounds, 10.2 assists, another career high, and a career high 41.7% from three. The big thing with him, as far as when he's guarded by Zubac, like he's gonna be able to draw Zubac out with like his inverted spacing. Like he likes to play at the top of the key or out at the 3-point line. And like I said, Zubac he's been a great rim protector this year. He's been in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. So this takes him out of the paint. And I think that's going to be something to watch as he hopes to kind of neutralize Zubac's effect. I also just think Jokic has just been on another level this season. He's the best player in the league. He is one of the top runners for MVP odds. Like there's a lot that comes into that, and him being the best player in the league still stands, even though his defense has taken a slip this year. And Zubac, in my opinion, is like the one guy in the league, one of the few guys, like maybe like Steven Adams, one of the in this playoff picture that can actually match him in terms of size and strength. Now, on a Zubac, he's averaging 16.8 points, and this is a career high jump for him. He's up 5 from his average last year. 12.6 rebounds, which is another career high, and he's been very good on the offensive glass this season. He's averaging almost 4 offensive rebounds. And like I said, he's one of the bigger guys in the league who can match up with Jokic, and I think this will serve well for the Clippers in terms of this matchup with just disrupting how Jokic likes to play. Like typically when he goes up against bigs who kind of match his size or a little more dominant, a little more physical in defense, he pulls them out to the perimeter a lot more because that's where he has his advantage. And it's advantageous when Jokic isn't hitting his threes at the rate he's been hitting like last season. This season, it's kind of an issue. You can't leave him open. He's going to make it. And we're going to see in this series how that kind of plays out. But those are the two that I'm really, really watching in this series, like how they match up, how they battle each other, how Zubac holds up, especially, and if he's able to make Jokic uncomfortable. Now, onto their offenses versus their defense. I'm going to start with the Nuggets. They were 4th in offensive efficiency this season with an offensive rating of 119.9 points per game. So a very, very high offensive efficiency. And that's kind of typical for Jokic-led offense. Like they've been in the top 5 in offense for like the past, I don't even know how many seasons, but since Jokic has reached this MVP level form, like it's pretty much a shoo-in that they're going to be a top 10 offense. And again, you see it. They run a lot of 5-out motion with movement, spacing, a lot of dribble handoffs, pick and rolls, pick and pops, flare screens, and especially like off-ball first flare screens for Jokic, which is not usual for a lot of bigs. Like he'll usually have guards setting him off balls and making bigs have to like navigate the screens as he comes off, gets a lot of open threes that way. And just a lot of like typical like back screens for Jokic, which is going to get Zubac moving a lot in space. think that is going to be an issue for him at times. He's not the best mobile big. Like he can move his feet, but that's still just a tough ask. Like he's not accustomed to that for sure. But where the Nuggets offense might give the Clippers some problems, I imagine they're going to attack James Harden. They're going to attack Norman Powell. But those guys have held up well this year. Ever since the Clippers kind of brought in Jeff Van Gundy and kind of adjusted their defensive approach, but I'm going to get to that later. Now, onto the Clippers offense. They ranked 14th with an offensive rating of 115.1 points per game. But again, I think this isn't a great indication of their offense and their team as a whole because Kawhi came back through the midway portion of the season. So a lot of those numbers are going to be skewed a ton. But as for the Clippers offense, they run the typical ton of pick and rolls, especially with Zubac and Harden. Top of the key, lots of spacing, lots of off-ball action. Like you'll see Powell running off of screens a lot of the time. Like he'll start in the corner, run out to the wing as they're running a pick and roll at the top of the key or back cuts. A lot of moving, well, for certain particular players, like same with like Bogdan, they run similar plays for him, but lots of drive and kick and read and react, spacing, just moving the ball around. A lot of their possessions turn into ISOs, and they have three really elite ISO scorers in Powell, Kawhi, Harden, and he's not elite, but even Bogdan can get a bucket at times. So they have a lot of guys who can create their own shot, create offense, and the Nuggets don't have a ton of perimeter defenders in their starting lineup. So this may be problematic for them at times. Like I imagine the Clippers they're going to attack MPJ a lot. They're going to attack Jokic a lot. They're going to attack Jamal Murray a lot. And we're going to kind of see how that plays out. These teams both have top offenses, and I don't think they'll cancel each other out. Like I think the Nuggets offense will be their carrying point, but something to look at as to how they match up. Now, onto their defense. I'm gonna start with the Nuggets here. They had the 22nd ranked defense according to defensive rating. They were at 116 points per game. For them, they run a lot of show and recover with Jokic. Like he'll come up to the level and try and maintain or keep the ball handle in front of him as long as he can, just to let his guy recover. But they haven't been very good at it this season. Like in the past, especially like their championship season, they just had a much better team defense. Like this year has been a lot of effort things, like closing out the shooters, making backside rotations, making the right rotations in general, like communicating. They do a lot of like you see, especially when they were slumping, like a lot of like point switching, and that just hasn't been cutting it for them. And Jokic especially, I don't think he's given as much as he can on the defensive end this year, but we've seen him be capable of it. And I think once the postseason comes around, he'll pick it up. And I think that defensive rating will come up a bit, but they've still been lacking this year. MPJ has been very bad on defense, just being attentive, like tracking shooters as a help defender. He's one of the big culprits, missing rotations. Jamal Murray's been okay, but not what you would want for a championship level team. And I think this is going to be something that really hurts them in this series. The Clippers have a lot of scorers and playmakers and ball handlers, and the Nuggets have a bunch of weak points. And if they have guys on their bench that can kind of step in and step up defensively, but they don't give you nearly as much offensive production as guys like let's say you sub Peyton Watson for MPJ. Like, yeah, you have a better defender out there, but you have much less spacing. Jokic is gonna have to play in a crowd more, less shooting. So you kind of there's a give and a take there. Like even like guys like Russell Westbrook, there's a give and a take, and that's gonna be something to watch a lot in this series. And just kind of how their new head coach balances who he's playing and the lineups he's throwing out there. As far as the Clippers, they're one of the best defenses in the league, and like I said earlier, I commend a lot. Like I give a lot of this to Jeff Van Gundy. He has just always put together top 10 defenses. Like wherever he's gone, he's just a great defensive coach, and you saw it immediately as he gets there. Like he just is a great defensive mind, and his track record shows it. But the Clippers ranked third in defensive rating this season. They are at 110.3 points per game, and it's kind of funny because their roster hasn't changed a ton, I would say. Like they lost Paul George, yeah, but I'd say he's a pretty solid perimeter defender, post paint defender. Like he's pretty versatile. But they brought in guys like Norman Powell, Chris Dunn, and I think that just changed a lot. Like, you don't have to rely on guys like Kawhi and Paul George to be your best perimeter defenders, because now you have guys who are, that's literally what they're in the league and what they're paid to do. Clippers are also first in defensive rebounding percentage, so they don't give up a lot of second chance points, which is something that the Nuggets, especially Jokic, like, he's very good at, tipping the ball up to himself, getting offensive rebounds, tipping it out. The Clippers don't really allow that. They all do a good job gang rebounding. Zubac does a good job. Like, he's so big down there, like, gobbling up rebounds. And as far as their defensive strategy, they run a basic, like, I won't say basic, but a typical, like, man-to-man coverage, with their main goal, like, a lot, like, if you watch, is funneling guys into Zubac in the paint, because he's so big. He takes up so much ground, can block shots, and he's just a deterrent. And it's been working for them all season. And I think their defense will hold up in the postseason. They were good even before Kawhi returned this year. And with him, like, that's just an added, like, is another level of defense and another versatile defender who they can deploy at times. And, like, yeah, Kawhi's not the top tier defender that he used to be, but he still is a very good defender and can wreak havoc when he needs to. And like I mentioned earlier, like, guys like Harden and Powell aren't known for their defense, but this season they've just turned it around with effort. Like, that's really the thing, is effort. Like, guys are just doing more, paying more attention to their jobs, and you're seeing the results. Like, the Clippers ended up as a 5 seed for a reason in a jam-packed West. I expect the Clippers to do a lot of pressuring of Jamal Murray. The Nuggets don't have a lot of, like, top tier ball handlers. Like, you have Jamal Murray is, like, their only, outside of, like, Russell Westbrook, like, they don't have a lot of guards who they really trust, like, running their offense. And if the Clippers are smart, I'd have Chris Dunn full court pressing him the entire game. I'd have Derrick Jones Jr. full court pressing him the entire game. Tire him out. He's just returning from injury. He was out a while with that hamstring injury. He's definitely not fully back in shape yet. Like, that takes a while, getting back in basketball shape. So I'd tire him out, try and neutralize him a bit. And I think that's one of their best routes to winning this series, because if you make it all about Jokic, he's definitely capable, but it makes his job a lot harder. Now, as for the X factors, the first big one, and I know we all know this, Kawhi Leonard. This season, the Clippers have been so good with him on the court. Their record with him on the court with Kawhi is 26-11, so that's a 70% win percentage. And you got to think, like, if that was the case for an entire season, they'd be the second best team in the West. So just to put it in perspective, and without Kawhi, they're still a pretty solid team. But I'd say more so on the average. And they were 24-21 without him, the 53% win percentage, which is still solid. But it just shows, like, it's like night and day when he's in the lineup. And especially since he's been back in form, like, a lot of those losses that they suffered with him, he was just coming back from injury, had to work himself back into shape, game speed, recovering, getting his feel back. Like, he was just out, he returned from surgery. Like, there's a lot to it. And as of late, he's just back in form. Like, over the last 20 games, I'm going to just read off his numbers, and you tell me what you think. He's been averaging 25 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, while shooting 52% from the field and 42% from 3, 80% from the line. So just superstar production. And it just amazes me how Kawhi, time and time again, he keeps going through these catastrophic injuries, these, like, back to back to injuries to his knees, like, and he just keeps finding a way. He returns, he goes through his rehab, he finds a way to come back, he finds a way to bounce back. And I have so much, like, respect and admiration for that, because it's not easy coming back from an injury, especially the same types of injuries over and over and over. Like, it takes a certain level of, like, mental strength to do that, and he's built for it. And I just love seeing Kawhi back in the mix. Like, I remember a couple years back when they were playing the Suns, and I think it was the first round, back when Russell Westbrook had just got on the team. I think it was before they got Harden, I want to say, but he had like 40 in back-to-back games. He was guarding Kawhi, locking him up. I mean, he was guarding KD, locking him up, guarding Devin Booker, and then dropping 40. Like, and then he went down, and I was so bummed, because the Clippers were going to win that series, and I want to see him available in the playoffs. I want to see all the stars available. It makes for better matchups, and things play out the way they're supposed to. But also with Kawhi, one thing that he's going to factor in is taking Aaron Gordon out of the paint. Aaron Gordon usually plays on or guards like the worst shooter, and he kind of serves as like a roamer. He's an athlete, like he serves as like the back line. He's their rim protector, and with him being on Kawhi, it's going to be a lot tougher for them to guard the paint because this leaves Jokic in the action. Like I said, Harden and Zubac like to run their pick and rolls. You can't, like, you're not just going to leave Kawhi. And, like, yes, he'll have times where he has to help and they kind of show and get back, but it's going to leave for a lot more openings for Kawhi. If that's the route they take, they might try something like, I'm trying to, like, they may try some weird things where they throw like Aaron Gordon on, like if Derrick Jones Jr. is out there, like they'll throw him on him and have him as a roamer. Or maybe if things go bad, like you try him on Chris Dunn and you figure out the matchups that way. But I think that's bad. But they're gonna have their hands full trying to figure out that matchup. As for the Nuggets, like I think their biggest X factor is Jamal Murray. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury and he just returned. And just over the years, he's kind of built up a lot of these lower body injuries. He was pretty bad in the postseason last year, and he was bad in the Olympics. He was bad to come out and start the season. He's kind of returned back to form, and his numbers, like when I say bad, he's still a really, really good player. I'm saying by his standards, but his numbers aren't really down. But the way he plays, like it's a little more evident. Like his burst, for one, his first step, like you're used. Oh, well, in my Jamal Murray experience, especially rooting as a Lakers fan, like I'm used to him having that burst, getting to a spot, like stopping on a dime, getting to his pull ups, and you don't see it as much this year. Like he can't really get past defenders or explode into his jump shots, and this is so important for his tough shot making, especially. And he's still been hitting a lot of these shots, but it's just taking a lot more energy out of him. They're a lot tougher. Like a lot of the shots he has to take are just tougher shots. Like he's not getting to his spots as well. And I don't know if this is something that is fixable. Like it could just be a decline in his athleticism due to all the injuries. Could be like I don't want to say it's conditioning because it's been like an all season thing, but for them to go far in the postseason, you got to look for him to get back to form. And he's Jokic's Robin. Like he's so important for their 2-man game. His tough shot making, his jump shooting, and like I said, his numbers are very similar to last year. So this is more based on the eye test. I think one factor that just off looking at his minutes, like his minutes are up. He's at about closer to like 37 minutes per game this year, as opposed to the last few years. He's been lower in around 31, 32. Maybe he's fatigued a bit. And that's one thing you can tell when he starts to play tired because he shows it, like a lot of like resting, hands on his knees. He'll have like uncharacteristic turnovers, like things like that. So that's just something to look out for. And then the last swing factor that kind of goes for both teams is the coaching. The Nuggets fired Mike Malone a couple weeks before the postseason. I wasn't really sure about the move. We guess we got to see how it plays out. But their new head coach is David Alderman. He was their assistant. They kind of promoted him up, and I personally don't have a lot of knowledge on him, so that's something that I'm gonna look out for. He's never been a head coach in my if I'm recalling correctly, like this is his first head coaching job. Like he's really liked in their locker room, and he's been a voice that's been around a while. But this is gonna be his first playoff series, like leading a team, and that's just something to look out for. He has not like he's still getting acclimated. Like going from assistant to head coach is a big swing, a big turnaround, and that's gonna be something that it's all gonna be new and like a learning experience for him. So may make mistakes, especially when you're going up against like the Clippers have Tyronn Lue. That's a championship level coach. He is one of the best like X's and O's guys. He's great at making adjustments. He'll change up his lineups in a heartbeat. Like none of that's an issue for him. And he'll definitely throw some curveballs at David Alderman. So that's just something to watch out for. If he gets like severely outcoached or not, I expect Tyronn Lue to be the best coach in the series. And coaching only plays so much of a part, but it definitely has an effect on how the series is going to play out. Now, as for matchups, for the Nuggets, their starting lineup, Jamal Murray, Bron, MPJ, Gordon, Jokic. I expect Chris Dunn to start on Jamal Murray, and Derrick Jones Jr. when he's in is going to get some reps. As for Bron, I think you'll see Harden there, maybe Paul at times, but mainly Harden, and I think they'll use Harden as sort of like their roamer. 'Cause even though Christian Braun, he's shooting good this year. He's shooting like I think close to 40% at three this season. He still is not like there's a difference between how you'd guard like him as a 40% shooter versus like Caldwell Pope, for example, when he used to be with the Nuggets. Like Caldwell Pope is a shooter that you're not gonna leave. You're always paying attention to. Like Christian Braun, sometimes you're okay with letting him shoot because he's not as much of a he's not gonna shoot it every time. He's reluctant at times. So that's something to look out for the Nuggets. And then MPJ, I think Norman Powell's gonna go there. There's gonna be like a size disadvantage for the Clippers, but I think he'll do a good job. Like he's quick enough, he's agile enough to move around and stay with him. Now, as for like offensive rebounding and things of that, so he has to just make sure he's boxing out because, like I said, MPJ has that size advantage, something to look out for. And then for Aaron Gordon, you're going to see Kawhi there, Ben Simmons if he plays, things like that. And then Jokic, typical, you're going to see Zubac. Like that's going to be his primary defender. The Clippers don't really have like super solid backup bigs, so Zubac were to go down or be in foul trouble, that would be an issue for them. And I think that's when you might see like small ball with like throwing Ben Simmons at the five or things like that. Like they might have to get a little wonky, but for the most part, I think that's how it'll stay. And then as for the Clippers, the starting lineup that they have been running to end the season was Harden at the one, Chris Dunn at the two, Norman Powell at the three, Kawhi, and then Zubac. Now, as for Harden, I think Brown will go there for a majority of the series. Like he's a great athlete, he's a great perimeter defender, and they're gonna expect him to be all up in Harden's jersey. I also think Russ is gonna go there at times. I think Russ is when he's locked in, like he's a very, very because he's a great athlete still, even at his older age. Like he's a great perimeter defender. He's a good post defender. He's strong, so you can't like bump him off his spots. Like guys like Harden might try and use their strength a little bit. That won't really go with Westbrook, and he's good at recovering. Like if he gets beat, he's always trying to chase down, get that block, go for like a strip, and it might be an issue sometimes because Harden's good at drawing fouls, but something to look out for. As for Chris Dunn, I feel like they're gonna just put MPJ there and kind of let him be as sort of a helper or a roamer. And you also don't want him in a lot of the action, so kind of just sit him there. But that's where I also could see like maybe them trying things like putting Aaron Gordon there. And maybe you try. That's why I say try MPJ on Kawhi and just offer help with like Aaron Gordon. You just gotta hold MPJ can kind of hold up, but things get a little weird for the Nuggets there. And for Powell, I think Jamal Murray is gonna go there. That two might be a little bit of a scary matchup for the Nuggets, but I think that's probably the best spot for him to go. I think Russ will go there at times. And then for Kawhi, I think you're going to see Aaron Gordon there. And I also think you're going to see Russell Westbrook on Kawhi at times. Just because he's a good post defender, he's strong, and he's like he's just a good defender for bigger wings like that. Like you've seen him, I've seen him on LeBron before. You see him on Luka at times. Like those bigger wing guard, like he can do a good job just because he's such a strong and explosive athlete. And then as for Zubac, you'll see Jokic to be expected. Now, to paint the picture for if either team wins, the Nuggets win this series. Jokic, and Murray have to have their classic two-man game going. Like Jamal Murray has to be able to create for himself, especially scoring in like bench lineups when Jokic sits, because you can't have Jokic, especially like I said, if they're gonna go far. Jokic can't be playing 40 plus minutes a night if and this series goes to game 7 and next series goes to game, like that's gonna be too much for him to manage, in my opinion. Like if you win this series, you're going up against the Thunder. Like you don't want Jokic super fatigued. So Murray has to be able to hold up in those bench lineups. Aaron Gordon has to maintain hitting threes. He's been at a 40% clip all season, and he's been doing it all season. I don't see it like just going away. And he has to be able to guard Kawhi well. I didn't mention this earlier, but Aaron Gordon's also one of those guys, similar to Brown. Like, yes, he's been shooting well, but teams are still gonna dare him to shoot at times. And whether he makes them or not is gonna determine whether or not they live or die by that. Another thing for the Nuggets, though, Jokic has to be Jokic. He has to average his 30-point triple-double, and they need him to be like at his top tier production. He has to be hitting threes. And then lastly, the Nuggets team defense. They just have to be better. They haven't been as good this year. Jokic hasn't been good at coming up to the level, and just his effort. That's literally all it's been. Effort, rotation, communication, and especially in a series like this with guys like Harden and Powell and Kawhi, Bogdan, they like to pull up. They're good pull up shooters. Like they play out of pick and roll, they play out of a live dribble, and especially in those pick and rolls, like if Jokic isn't coming up, Harden is gonna kill you with his step back threes. Kawhi is gonna kill you with his pull up middies or Hezzy get around Jokic. Like Powell is gonna run right by Jokic. Like your rotations have to be on point. You have to have help behind them. And again, this is where I think they're going to run into some situations because if you have guys like if Aaron Gordon has to help off Kawhi or MPJ has to help off, like even Dunn, like they'll knock down threes. And if they start, like if everyone on the Clippers is hitting, I don't know what you do as the Nuggets. Now, on to the Clippers. Their keys to victory, Harden has to maintain his efficiency and he has to torch Jokic in these pick and rolls. Like, when he's getting open threes, he has to hit them, and he has to just be making the right decisions. And I trust him to do that. Also, keeping the turnovers down because that's usually an issue point for Harden. Kawhi has to maintain this top tier performance, and he has to stay healthy. And I have my fingers crossed. I believe. I hope he's around. I hope the Clippers make it far in the postseason. I think this team is really, really good. And yeah, they also have to pressure the ball. You got to make sure you tire out Jamal Murray. That's the only way you're going to take him out of the series if he doesn't take himself out. And then Zubac has to do his best defending Jokic. With that being said, my prediction is this series will go 7 games. And I have the Clippers winning the series with Kawhi and Harden leading the way. That's all I have for today, though. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Peer Review Podcast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts on this matchup. Who wins the series? Will Kawhi hold up? How do things play out? Let me know in the comments. And that's all I have. This is the Peer Review. Signing off.